Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Signal, the weekly show where we curate the latest news around AI, future of work, and tech. And today is a very special session because we have I have today with me the founders of Prosper AI, Josep and Xavi. Welcome, guys, to Signal.
Welcome. Thank you, Ramón.
It's very exciting to have you here because it was only 24 hours ago that the both of you announced Series A with Andreessen Horowitz of 30 million, which is super exciting, I think, for the space, also for, I think, the Spanish ecosystem. But before we go into the round and the details and Prosper, can the two of you kind of introduce yourselves super briefly and give us a bit of background?
Sure, I can start. This is Josep Mingot, originally from Lleida, actually, in Spain, a small town in Spain. I studied mathematics and telecommunications engineering, UPC in Barcelona, then went to MIT, started my first company in machine learning space, and then went to the US with a former founder, serial entrepreneur from Spain, Iñaki Berenguer, working at Cover Wallet. I led the product team through the acquisition. And then after that, I decided to start Prosper and join forces with Xavi.
Great. And I'm Xavi. Great to meet everyone. Originally from Barcelona. Grew up there, grew in a family of doctors. So both my parents are doctors. They've got a small private practice in Spain. And so part of like our, healthcare experience comes from that, and like me witnessing their experience with all the admin side of things. But decided not to go into into medicine, and actually I was always more interested in like how the practice actually run. And so I studied business. I was at Bain for several years in the Madrid office, went to Harvard, did the MBA there, and then joined a startup in New York that was an Uber for home services. I stayed there for 5 years, had different roles, eventually leading a P&L of over $120 million in revenue and overseeing the operations and customer support teams there. We had over 1,000 agents that I was overseeing. And that got a bit the insight when ChatGPT came out that AI was going to transform how operations and support teams are run. And so decided to leave my job and start Prosper with Josep 3 years ago now.
Very cool. So either of you, whoever wants, like, what's Prosper and what are you guys building?
Yeah, I can go there. So at Prosper, basically, we are building in the surface voice agents for the healthcare industry. So essentially helping healthcare organizations automate some of the phone calls that they do either with patients, so the phone calls that they receive from patients, those healthcare organizations, or with insurance companies. There's a lot of phone calls or communications that today healthcare organizations, especially based in the US, they do on the back office, mostly with insurance companies. And we automate that. And a little bit our vision there is not just helping these healthcare organizations on the surface, building these patient assistance, but also with these deeper workflows that go deeper and actually reduce the friction that many patients have today in the healthcare, especially in the US with insurance companies.
So basically, in the US, from what I know about the space, which is actually our conversation, Josep, in the Spanish podcast of Nova, basically in the US, since the payer is not the caregiver, right? This whole thing about, getting healthcare to run properly is complex because I'm being treated in a hospital, but then it's my insurance company paying for that. And there's a lot of phone calling around this. And that's at the core of what you guys do, right? That's what you are solving, that I guess used to be done by call centers.
Exactly. Those healthcare organizations, hospitals, practices, basically they have people and different teams there. Some of them helping the patient side, some of them helping in the back office with these workflows, with these interactions that they have to have with the insurance companies. And this creates a lot of friction in this patient journey, right? Because for you to have care, and for you to actually, after you've been actually visited, understand what has happened and what's the cost that it has for you, it requires these multiple touch points with the insurance company that not just creates friction, it creates frustration on patients because many times it's not understood exactly what's going on, why your care may be delayed, why you're asked so many things before actually having to be seen, or why you owe an important amount of money to the healthcare organization without transparency or visibility before of what was going on.
And so these agents are talking to the patients, but also in between the companies, right? Or mostly in between the companies, if I'm correct. No, so it's mostly this interaction, hospital insurance that you guys are automating, right? I think that's at the core.
Exactly. So we essentially, we used to say internally that we have a workforce of agents. Some of our agents are especially focused on patient interactions. So for example, we have scheduling agents that are responsible for handling the requests from patients to schedule appointments. We have billing agents that are responsible for explaining what's owed or what's actually need to be paid for the care. Those are patient-facing agents, but we also have insurance interaction agents, right? Those ones that, for example, are used to connect with insurance companies in order to verify the insurance benefits that the patient may have before the care, right? Those are some of the agents that we actually provide.
And the whole thesis is around the admin layer, right? So it's not that an agent will also come into the, when I visit the hospital as a patient and help me with treatment or diagnosis, etc. It's the whole admin thing around healthcare that you guys are automating without entering the world of, actually diagnosis or treatment and so on, right?
Exactly. Very important distinction. We are super focused on the administrative side, on the financial side. And the thesis is, yes, patients on this administrative side need some sort of assistant to guide them through end-to-end from scheduling to billing. But as part of this journey, it's very important that this assistant is also insurance savvy and help you with those interactions that today are done by other teams. Today, they are delayed, siloed, and create this what we call internally friction along the patient journey side. So if we fulfill our vision, we will be able to streamline all of this.
And who are your clients?
Yeah, and so I'll add one piece on that. So when you think about this administrative process, right, of like patient calls in, they want to get a visit, they need to check the benefits, see if the coverage is actually there, if like the insurance company is actually going to pay for it. And then finally, you may need to charge the insurance company and charge the patient. And so that process mostly happens on the phone with the different players, but also through other channels, right? There's APIs that are involved where you can get some part of the information. You can check information also online on certain like insurance portals or like websites of the organizations. And so what we're doing is we have the AI voice agent as the core, but really it's agentic in nature at this point. And to be able to like do this greatly, we're focused on the administrative side because of the complexity that already entails.
So I guess there's a huge market on that, right? And we can discuss market size later. And then there's another huge market on just the treatment itself, right? So I think it's two adjacent businesses because healthcare in the US, I think it's something like 20% of GDP, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's a lot of trillions there. That's something like 3 trillion maybe, or 6 trillion, yeah. 20% of 30, yeah, something like that. So probably a lot of room to make good companies. Exactly. So walk us through who is paying you? Like, who is your customer?
So our core customers are what's called like large outpatient practices. So think of a large dermatology group that maybe has 20 locations, 100 doctors, and they've got a centralized team for the administrative work. There is front desk in different, locations for someone to like greet, but then the actual call center and this process of like mainly scheduling and then checking the benefits, and charging the patients and the insurance companies is centralized in an operations team. And so those are our customers. On top of that, we've also partnered with a lot of like the systems of record, or that's called in the US EHRs, that are the software where like usually like practices are run, like the SaaS for running medical practices. And so they are looking to partner with organizations like ours to enable AI agents on top of their system. And so those are also part of our customers, and we're able to get a lot of scale through them.
So you're having then a direct sales channel towards the first. So you sell with your own team towards those big chains of healthcare groups. But at the same time, through the software that these clinics use, you have kind of a partner layer of sales where they are selling your product as if it was, a Salesforce or another kind of CRM that is actually not your workforce making most of the new ARR. Is actually third party selling for you, right?
Exactly, yes. And there's different combinations and different ways of structuring it, right? And there's multiple players in the space, not only like the SaaS, but yes, the core idea is that there's service providers or software providers for these medical practices that have an incentive to bring AI also to the medical practice, and they have the distribution that we can leverage.
And the business case, sorry, go ahead.
This is I think it's a very important hack, right? Because as Xavi was saying, it let us go super fast to very big organizations through them that shorten us the sales cycles, right? Imagine some of the health systems that we are going after. It would have taken us 9 months to put that logo in our page, and now we can go extremely faster because we leverage an existing distribution.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, Josep, you and I discussing whether you would actually then build the SaaS part and replace them, but actually not. You went partner with them, which is actually much smarter, and sell through them. I guess that's probably part of the reason why you raised, so fast the next round, or you're growing super fast. Because if you had to hire, such a big sales force, that would have taken much more time, no?
Yep.
So through partners are always a great way to grow, right? And probably faster than direct sales. Although you have a bit less control, and you will wonder probably whether they would build their own solutions, right? And I guess that that would be the worry.
It's a combination. It's about selecting them and being strategic about who do you marry or partner with, right? Because obviously there's trade-offs in margin, in control, and this is why we don't bet just in one. We do a combination, and we think that one helps the other and the other way around, and that's part of our strategy.
Totally. No, we'll go deeper into that. I wanted to know a little bit before we jump onto more the numbers and the scale. Like these clinics, for instance, that are buying, what's the ROI for them? Like, how are they solving this problem today, and how much time, money, or whatever are they saving? Like, are they just removing entire call centers, maybe outsourced, and replacing that for your agents at the 10th of the price or 50% of the price? Like, walk us through a bit of the business case from, because I guess it's a very rational sale, the one you're doing, right?
Yeah. So first, let me put you in the head of like this buyer, right? So this is like a director of operations who runs a call center, runs probably also some other part like the verification of the patients, like the billing, and they are in constant firefighting, right? Like they have 30-40% turnover of their employees. This is like a job that, is an entry-level job. For most people, unemployment in the US is 3-4%, so it's difficult to hire great talent to like do these jobs. On top of that, there's seasonality. There's like Mondays are like much worse than like the rest of the day of the week, and so they are in this situation where for them consistency and being able to staff this is difficult. Not only that, but like 80% of appointments actually happen on the phone when someone calls in. Like if you want to book an appointment, you call. That's how the market works today, right? And so if you're not picking up the phone because someone is off, you're just not selling, right? You're not booking patients. And at scale, that is a problem. And so what we're bringing to market is, yes, there is a part of it that's a clear ROI. You have, 20 people today in the call center. Eventually, with time, you'll need less of that, maybe half. But it's just like you will stop hiring people at some point, or like as people attrit, you will like not hire, and then you may rearrange them to like other parts of the business, or especially like many times they don't even have time to work on the most complex cases. And so now they have the time to do that work. So there's a piece on the ROI that's direct on the cost savings of like not having as many people as necessary in the midterm. But on top of that, there's really like the revenue generation. And that's where it gets super interesting, right? Because now you're picking up the phone consistently 24/7 over the weekend. When people want to cancel and reschedule appointments, they can do it over the weekend. Usually Mondays, you have a lot of no-shows, people just not showing up, and you lose that revenue because the doctor is there and they don't have a visit, right? And so
how does the pricing work? Like, do you charge per call? Is it credits? Is it outcome? Like, how do you price?
Yeah, so that's been like agentic pricing is a super interesting topic. We've been evolving it. We're moving. Several of our customers are on outcome basis, and depending on like how many agents we have with them, it can be about pricing on appointments, or it can be a pricing on like number of calls or number of tasks managed. And the more product surface they have with us, the more outcome based we become. But with all of them, there's a very clear ROI on the existing cost structure. And then on top of that, there's this revenue lift that you see on this thing there.
And this revenue lift, Xavi was saying it, extremely important because it's influencing our roadmap. And if we're able to demonstrate that we just not just are able to automate phone calls, but increase the appointment rate, provider utilization that's measured about of the available slots of a physician, how many we can fill. This is directly pricing power, right? That we may have against horizontal solutions. So that's a very strategic decision on our end, also to pick the core agents that are not just cost cutting, but also revenue generating for the organizations that we work with.
Totally. And how does we discussed the two channels, so direct sales and partner-led sales. I guess it's always tricky, to put a price on partner-led sales. How does that work? How much of the margin do they keep? How much do you guys keep? At least a broad range. How does that work? Because, for instance, in my case, and now that we're scaling our own agentic solution, it's something we like to do, but it's always hard to get started with partner-led sales. And I love that you guys were able to do this so quickly and get the good partners already selling your product.
Yeah, I mean, it varies by partner, to be honest, and the use case. We've got like several agents that we work with, but I would say there's always a discount that you can think about, just so like they can make also the margin. They also have more pricing power with their own customers, and so
they end up charging more than what you would have charged, probably.
Potentially, depending on the solution and like the platform. But they do have the pricing power because it's an all-in-one for them, and so if they can bring it to market, it's the default solution for some of their customers. What I will say though is like it's also time-consuming to launch them, and it can be a distraction depending on like who's a partner, right? And so, especially for seed-stage startups like we were until like a month ago or 2 months ago, it's important to choose who you're gonna partner with, because there's gonna be a vetting process. It's gonna be time-consuming. There's gonna be steps to trial and prove and so on and so forth before you can actually scale it.
Did you let that yourself?
Just one thing I want to hear, and as part of this betting process, it's very important to understand that this channel also requires a scale, right? As there is maybe a little bit less margin, we only select like mostly enterprise vendors that, because we reduce the margin, we can get much more scale with them.
No, I was going to ask, like, now that building technology is getting cheaper, or easier to build product, are you guys... Is there anything that prevents your partners to, in the future, kind of build their own agents and basically, remove you from the equation? Are you protected, or are you trying to protect yourself somehow against that potential future?
I would say that they are more exposed than us, to be honest. But
software is easier than agents. Yes, agree.
Exactly. So agents is broad, and there's a lot of things behind agents, right? But if we talk about these agents that we are focused on, interaction agents or ones that manage conversations, communications, I think that there's a thesis here that we're going after, that it's not just the software and the platform that we're building, it's the deployment motion, this service, and this feedback loop, right? We're not selling them a platform that they can build agents on. We are selling them a KPI and everything that needs to happen, especially the feedback loop. The feedback loop defined as, we execute those phone calls, we execute those interactions, and we review all of them, and we create and optimize and make sure that they work perfectly for the organization that we're working with. And this has proven to be quite difficult because it's not just software, right? It's a software plus our deployment motion that makes a difference. And, if we look outside healthcare, there's other companies like Sierra, Decagon, right? That people are betting that they are going to be the winners over, for example, Salesforce, as opposed to Salesforce building the agents. Why? Because this agent first, specifically in this category, requires much more than just software, and this is very easy to see once you're inside. Maybe not as easy to see from outside.
Yeah, was Pablo from Karumi was saying last week is that the very last mile is very hard when you do voice agents and you do this kind of thing. So you have to embed yourself pretty much in the workflows, right? So it's not simply choosing the right model, it's all of the context engineering, I guess, that comes into not only picking the right models, but assigning the right tasks to the right agents, and then having all of the context of that very last mile, which is very hard to nail to a great experience, so that the person doesn't want to jump and talk to a human, right? Because that was the experience before, that whenever you talk to a bot, you always wanted to end up with a sales rep.
And it's this process and the product and technology that you build around this process, right? That it's the differentiator. And then you see it super clearly when there are software companies, like in our space, that they build agents, right? The experience is super bad, right? And we don't even consider them competitors.
Totally.
We consider the agent first, the competitors, not the software companies that try to build agents.
No, very cool.
There's a very interesting macro point on what you're saying. Is that, like, people talk about commoditization and talk about commoditization in the AI space. And I think what they should think is about, like, the commoditization of the software, which has been there for 20 years, which people know how to deploy, which has been, like, it's very well mapped and understood. And it's never been cheaper and easier to actually replicate what has been there for the last 20 years. What's new, what's difficult, what's actually complicated to do is to, like, deploy AI agents, learn how to integrate them, learn how to, like, actually do the outcomes that organizations expect, and learn them to do, like, the labor that, like, now humans are doing. That's what's super complicated to do and, like, very difficult to, like, commoditize. So
on a tech perspective, I fully agree. It's true, though, that one would tell you, okay, but they have the client relationships, and if they are the systems of record, it's going to be tough to move them out.
No,
but yes, I agree that the technical challenge, I fully agree, but it's true that the commercial layer also defends some of these companies, right? It's not that easy to get away with, let's say, Workday, even though who loves Workday? Nobody. It's not that easy to, I believe Anthropic uses Workday, if I'm not mistaken, to manage their payroll.
But think about this. The cost to change system of record has never been lower, and it's probably the most expensive it's ever been right now, because in the future it's even going to be lower, right? And so the cost to implement a system of record and to create a system of record is only going down. And so that means that actually they are the ones who are at risk of commoditization, because changing that system of record is going to become easier and easier, having agentic frameworks that, like, do that for you.
No, totally, yeah. But I guess that what ends in the end, is probably an understanding of the problems, as we discussed, and those workflows, and the commercial relationships, right? That never underestimate the power of a good commercial relationship. So, but super cool. I don't want to, I would love for us to talk about the round. I think we all in Spain are very excited about having, I think you are not the first, but one of the already several that has gotten, Spanish founders with a16z behind them. We have the guys at Happy Robot. We have Supersonic as well. Tell us how do you get probably the most prestigious VC in the world to lead your Series A? How did that happen?
Yeah. So I would say, we've been building for some time, and we've had a very differentiated approach to what Josep Mark was saying. No, most companies have been building AI scheduling and going to, like, the small clinics and building from there and overfitting potentially for AI scheduling. We started building much more of, like, a AI voice platform for healthcare operations. We went broad. We're the first ones to have scheduling and payer and insurance calls and being agentic in nature. And we've gone from the very beginning, based on, like, our backgrounds, to larger organizations. And so, we had, like, multiple conversations with different VCs. We were lucky to have multiple term sheets, and, the Andreessen team, obviously beyond the brand, they have great reach. They can, they have a platform team that we believe has already proven to be great for us, and so we decided to go with them, as well as we had Base 10 from Adeyemi Yao and Jason Kong join, which also bring a lot of thought leadership for us and category building in the round.
Walk us through the process of raising. So you raised your seed, I don't think it was a year ago, right? Not even? Or when was it?
Yes. We announced it in September. We had raised it some months before.
Let's say a year, not even.
No.
What happens in between, and when do you believe you're ready to raise? Or does it come inbound because you are YC and you have, how does it really happen?
Yeah. So we started to have a very strong acceleration in September, and then we continued that acceleration. And so what's
the biggest acceleration if we talk about month per month, the revenue growth? Or in September we doubled, and then from there we were growing 40-50% per month. I think the last 7 months we've grown 40-50% month over month. And so we started to see that acceleration in September. It continued throughout the end of the year, and so we started to spend more. We started to hire more people. We started to we brought our first account executive in November, and we decided that if we wanted to win, we had to continue in fueling that acceleration. To think about the fundraise, we had some initial conversations first with VCs that we had been talking to. I would say every 3 to 4 months we speak with some VCs just to get a sense. There's a lot of different advice on this. To me, speaking to VCs is helpful to know what's in the market, how are they thinking, how are they positioning us, how are they thinking about us and others, and getting a sense or color on what are the questions going to be. And when you talk to them, you tell them, we are concentrated on building, we're not raising. Are you creating FOMO, or how did you approach those conversations?
The reality, which is we were concentrated on building. I had conversations in June, September, and then in January again. And we were, but I think it's very important to show them progress also, and be honest on what is working, what are the key milestones that you have, and if they can, and Josep Mark says this a lot, if they can connect several dots and see a straight line, that is very powerful, right? And so we had those friendly conversations with 6-8 VCs for some time, and then when we felt that we had the right pool and the right metrics, we went to market.
Mm-hmm. How big were you when you decided on a price? Were you already in the millions of ARR? I think that the latest average I have seen is $2 million ARR for Series A. Is that an accurate estimate? Because I think AI is raising the bar, right? With 1 million, you were on software in 2022, you were ready for Series A. But I think with AI now, the bar is higher. It's typically above 2 million. Is that still a correct estimate, 2 to 3 million?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think there's two factors. There's people who raise Series A's with 500K. There's people who need 5 million, 10 million to raise a Series A. I think there's a factor of the amount. There's a factor of the slope. How fast are you getting there, and how can they paint that?
If you were growing 50% month over month, is
yes.
That accepts almost any valuation that you can ask for. Super cool. And
this Ramón, there was an important learning, a few important learnings here on the content and in the process, right? And I think it's worth mentioning, and Xavier was leading this, but on the content side of what we presented, right, we had a very good traction, and we led the conversation with that traction, and then we attack the number one problem of our space, right? That every space has a different problem, and I think it's very important to start with the strength and then attack directly your problem and not leave it as a backup. In our case was, how are you different? Great traction, but how are you different? And we were focusing on there. We had a very good strategy, and it was about convincing them. But it's important to mention this part, right? Because some of our competitors in other industries, they were able to raise with much less, right? Because maybe they were the first ones, right? So it depends a little bit. For us, traction was astronomical, quote unquote. But even though, right, they were okay. But
how are you different from anybody else coming into this space? Everybody's building. How can Happy Robot, to say someone, Happy Robot come here? Could they build the same? I guess that's
no. In the healthcare space, they are clear, and history has demonstrated us, right, that the winners in the healthcare space in software, they are software focused on healthcare. But there were other companies there, right? And there's a clear, more or less clear one, and everybody's going to say, okay, who's going to be the second? Because this category is not going to have 5 winners, right? And hey, are you going to be that one? Traction is fantastic, but team is great, but what's there, right? And for us, it was a little bit this, going to the point about, great traction, probably it's super easy. It depends, right?
No, but it's great, this learning, like, lead with the strength and address the concern. Be direct about it and don't hide it to a question. Like be ready for the, be ready to counter argue it upfront. I think that's super good advice for founders.
A last learning here, at least from my side, and Charlie did this fantastically, is, right, not all VCs are equal. There are some of them that are easier and some of them that are harder, just because of, there's a selection process. Start with the easier, compound, create momentum, and go to the harder once you have this momentum. Because, once you have a lot of people that go after you, going to a harder also makes a lot of attention. And if we had done it differently or the opposite, we would be having...
So you had other term sheets than a16z when you went to talk to them. That's basically it. No? Like a16z probably wasn't the first term sheet. It's easier to get a16z when you have other term sheets. Right, I guess that's.
I think there's a lot of specificity on the dynamics of every round. But what I would say is there's an evolution and learning on what people are concerned about, and you'll see patterns as you go through it, right? And so it's important to understand it, so you can address those points and be able to explain your, your story and your vision in the most compelling way. And with that, throughout the process, you get that learning, and so you're able then to explain it the best towards the end, usually I would say. Another point of what Josep Mark was saying is for us, we are redefining the category, right? This is not about AI scheduling. This is about building the AI workforce for healthcare operations. And voice is a great channel of communication. It's not the only channel of communication in the space, and that was something that we knew from the very beginning, and we're very clear. And so we believe that being able to define what is it that you're playing for, what's your vision, and what's gonna actually turn, what's gonna happen in 3 years from now, what's gonna happen 5 years from now in the market, and say, hey, we're building towards that, and be very crystal clear why you believe that that's the winning reason. Because then wherever you are today and wherever others are, it doesn't matter. That's why the slope is important. Right? You're winning because you have something different, and that compounds, and very fast you can accelerate. We're, AI native companies are still in early stages, right? Whether they are in A, B, seed, you can still outpace others very quickly, and you see that with Legora, you see that with Ramp, Brex, and so it's about what do you believe that's gonna make you win.
One last on the round. How did you manage to negotiate the final amount and valuation? Did you make a competitive, a bit of a competitive arena? How does that negotiation work, and how do you, because sometimes it's not actually getting the best price, right? The terms are also important, the governance, liquidation preference, all of this. How did you, manage this negotiation with multiple parties that, as you guys said, you had multiple term sheets, so probably there were several configurations of the round that were possible.
Yes, look, one is we said that there were three axes, for our decision. One is the economic axis, what are the terms? Second is the people that you're partnering with, right? The actual people that are going to be in your board, and you need to trust that they're going to trust you. And third is the platform of the organization, the brand, and how can they actually help you accelerate. And so we made sure that we understood the second and the third one first before actually going into the third, because then we were able to put the pros and cons of each in place, right? And we said, hey, do we trust these people? Do we want to be working with these people? Then like, okay, how are they going to help us accelerate? Yes. And then like, okay, let's talk about the terms, and we'll trade terms for different things. So you
chose the best platform, clearly, no? Or what looks like the best platform from the outside for someone who doesn't know the space that well.
Yeah, I would say that what I was trying to convey is that there's trade-offs that you're doing, and then you maybe can maximize with all of them, right? Depending on how you negotiate. But we were clear on what were our boundaries for the different ones based on those three things, and that we were doing a trade-off if we were at the end of the day when we were choosing one, right? But that we were clear, and Josep, Mark, and I, like what we cared about. And it was nerve-wracking, I would say, like the last week or like the last days of that conversation, because we were having conversations with the different funds and trying to understand them better, and like speaking with founder references, and that's super important. And so it's difficult to.
But you were on a buying position, which is great. So I guess that's a lucky position to be at. I don't want to end the show without talking a little bit about talent. I believe you guys have a very high talent bar and talent density, and we are very proud to have worked with you guys to bring a few Novas to the organization. And I loved one post from you, Josep, on this convergence in between product managers and FDEs that are called AI PMs at the Prosper. Can you walk us through that theory of yours, and what's the type of people that you are guys bringing to Prosper?
Yes, and let's see how much we can scale this concept, right? But everything is changing in product development, software development, especially with agents, right? And basically, we are hiring at the solution side two profiles: AI product managers and engineers. And AI product managers is what the post was about, are essentially the next or the node between our customers and the technology and the platform and the solution that we build for them. It's a rare combination of client leadership, analytic skills, and building mentality, right? So it's what we call Da Vinci's, or called a little bit Da Vinci's, former MBBs with background in engineering, former founders, former managers, computer scientists that love business, and those are fantastic and great potential candidates. We like to think that those people that join this team are potentially future founders, because it really has a lot of material for being a future founder. It touches a lot of different important points there. And then on the purely product management side, right, those are the people that are going to be using our platform, and those are the people that are going to be mostly in contact serving our clients, so they have some rights to say what this platform should have, right? So we've created processes around about how to bring back this feedback that they have about how the platform should be built back to the technology side, and build and create this feedback loop of our AI PMs using the platform, being in contact with the clients at the same time that this improves continuously our platform.
And I think it's very interesting because as let's say we're discussing before, code gets cheap to build, junior engineers start to manage agents that build the code, and they start to be more senior software engineers. But then the senior software engineers or the tech leads, at least in my experience, are getting closer to product, right? They are needing to understand better what are the right problems to solve. And therefore the space for the PM gets narrower, at least in B2B organizations, right? So just merging that with the FDEs and getting them very close to what the clients want, to me, it's a fantastic idea. And I do believe the future of at least B2B agentic platforms look like this. Maybe on a B2C, you will still need product people.
Exactly.
But on a B2B with FDEs, I do believe that's the right way to go. Like, you don't need product managers that are not talking to clients and not building themselves.
Exactly. I received several feedback here, and this does not apply for everything, right? But for B2B, if the AAPMs or the deployment strategies are the ones in contact with the clients and using the platform, those are the ones that have more visibility there. And then again, you have the senior engineers that actually we always hire engineers, great engineers, but with a ton of product sense, because we want ownership from them end to end on the platform level. And we're very proud of that as well.
And last question before we close: what's the future of Prosper? Like, where are you guys heading? What's in those dreams that you probably didn't tell your close friends because they were maybe too ambitious for them to listen in? Like, how big is your ambition, and how big do you think this company can become?
Yes. So more on the non-numbers side, we have a clear ambition of being the best conversational solution on the healthcare space, starting with US as being one of the most competitive markets. If we can make it here, we can make it in other places. And we want to be the number one here, and we have a strategy around it. That's purely from a market perspective. A little bit more from a vision standpoint, right? Agents or agentic AI give you this possibility of really touch not just one specific part, but the whole journey. That this is the thesis of what we're going after, and we are extremely passionate about fulfilling this vision with our customer and be able to deploy these several agents that at the end of the day will dramatically reduce the friction that patients will have and that these organizations are having internally. And I don't know, Xavi, if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, no, I think that like to what you're saying, like we're really building like the AI workforce, right? For the healthcare operations teams. There's all these admin work. You were talking about the $5 trillion of healthcare spend. That's 3 times the GDP of Spain, just to give a sense. There's $500 billion spent on all the administrative side of things. So
it's a 10% of the whole industry's admin.
Correct. Yes, the admin that we're touching, right? Like the piece on getting the patients in, verified, bring them in, and then getting paid. And so we believe that like in 3, 5, 10 years from now, AI agents are going to be the workforce that's going to be doing that, and we're going to be the platform that's doing that for them, right? And so the channels through that is going to be agentic in nature through multiple ways, but our ambition is to like be that AI layer to manage the whole end-to-end process.
Super exciting, guys. Thanks for joining today's Signal. If we have Novas or other talented people that look for, something super ambitious and super cool to build, they know where to apply. So yeah, it was a pleasure to host you. Congrats. Thanks for inspiring, I think, a new generation of founders here in Spain, and best of luck. We'll follow your pace.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ramón.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.